back to the big Sunday show. Now, while Americans are suffering with record high inflation at home, President Biden, while he's overseas, wants to spend more to help the global economy.
Collectively, we aim to mobilize nearly $600 billion from the G7 by 2027. These strategic investments are areas of critical to sustainable development and to our shared global stability. Health and health security, digital connectivity, gender equality and equity, climate and energy security.
And now, Obama's former top economic advisors, who was among the first to warn about rising inflation, says now recession will happen.
That a recession is almost inevitable. Probably a 75%, 80% chance within the next 2 years, and there's certainly a real risk that it will come sooner.
So, Lara, let me go to you on this one, and I want to point out a couple things here. Joe Biden talks about $600 billion, this PGI, over a number of years. Larry Summers says, well, maybe in 2 years we'll have a recession. At some point, if anyone looks up the definition of recession, looks at where we are now, areas of stagflation, you don't need an economics degree to see this. And Europe's the leading indicator. What do you think they're trying to sell us?
Oh, well, they're doing anything they can to sell us that it's sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows all day long. But obviously, people go to the grocery store, they go to the gas pump. Every single day, they're feeling the impact of the negative decisions made by this president, by the Democrats. They have dug us into this deep hole that we're now in. And I think you're right. The idea that a recession is 2 years away, I mean, give us all a break. It's basically here now. And I think, you know, they're really doing everything they can to try and downplay things. But when it's impacting your everyday life, Americans are not going to buy that. And I think it's kind of insulting to see our president overseas there talking about spending money for the rest of the world. First of all, printing more money. You can't just continue to do this, spend money, print money. Ask Venezuela and countries like Venezuela. Once you just continue to print money in perpetuity, then the money becomes less valuable than the paper it's actually printed on. And that, sadly, is the direction we're heading in America. So to see Joe Biden over there talking about spending money for the rest of the world when people are having a hard time getting by day to day here, I mean, it's a bad look.
You know, Nicole, if you want to be a little bit depressed, and I don't want to depress you, just open up the debt clock and look at it. The money that's being printed is also being borrowed on our children's future. When you look at your children, you think of their future and just basic kitchen table economics.
Well, David, you know, I graduated medical school with over $300,000 worth of debt, and I worked very hard to pay off every dollar of that debt. And I agree with you. They're continuing to print money. They're continuing to borrow. It's like Oprah is in the White House. She's like, everyone gets a car. You get this, you get this, you get this. And that's what President Biden is doing right now. But if you listen to what they're talking about, I mean, the G7 they're behind China. China's Belt and Road Initiative for the last decade, they focused on hard infrastructure. They are way ahead of us. But here they are. They're coming forth now, pledging billions of dollars to clean energy, communication, and gender equity and equality, and information regarding gender equity. So, again, this isn't a strong look for the United States. And as Laura's mentioning, all you have to do is look here in the United States. On a national level, we're not doing well. The Democrats overspent. They extended the national emergency with COVID. They've created a very lazy society of people who don't want to go back to work. And we're in real trouble here. He needs to come back home, focus on home. We're not doing well here.
And to pick up on David's point there, I also watched that entire interview of Larry Summers, and he went on to say, you know, that if we do have a recession, which he thinks is 80% likely, it's imperative to ease the pain. And he said, quoting, we need to slay the inflation dragon. And pouring more federal money at the problem is not how you slay the dragon. That's how you feed the dragon. Even these left-wing or liberal economists are saying all of this spending is what's causing this inflation. That's the problem here. And the bottom line is, go ahead, David, you just want to make sure, as they say, you cannot have too much money chasing too few goods. That's the definition of inflation.
Yeah. You know what? Let's look at the media, because that's the megaphone trace that has really been pushing a lot of this. Here's what the media is saying now. I don't know if you're shocked, but I'm not really.
Look, the problem is the economy overheated.
It overheated in part because the government didn't just inject money into the economy at the start of the pandemic. but again last year.
There'll be $1,400 checks.
Approving a record $1.9 trillion stimulus while interest rates stayed at historic lows.
In retrospect, the government should not have put so much money into the economy.
Wow, in retrospect, how about the drumbeat, Trace? You've been in the media for a few years, haven't you? When you look at this, I mean, what were they missing? Or
listen, it's the same people who said, oh, it's transitional, right? This inflation, it's going to be a short period. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Now they're like, wow, did we miss that? Where did that train come from? It's a bad look in the media, but they're trying to catch up. They're trying to cover because they know the recession's coming. And when there's a recession on, the last thing they want to do is say, oh, man, we screwed it up. So you get ahead of it. You say you screwed it up a little bit now so you don't have to say you screwed it up a lot later.
We're going to have a lot of sound bites like after Donald Trump won in 2016 of all the people saying it'll never happen, it'll never happen. We'll have the same ones from the media.
And it did happen.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.